Today, we're diving into one of the most intense and emotional battles in Islamic history, the Battle of Uhud. This wasn't just a battle of armies, it was a powerful test of faith, resilience, and loyalty. But before we begin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're posting videos like this every day until 2025, so join us and help us reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. Let's set the stage. It's the third year after the Hijra, the migration of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his followers from Mecca to Medina. In Medina, the Muslims had finally found safety and peace. They could practice their faith openly and build a community based on justice and compassion. But this growing strength of the Muslims troubled the Quraysh, who saw Islam as a direct threat to their dominance and way of life. Just a year prior, the Muslims had won a surprising victory at the Battle of Badr, despite being severely outnumbered. This defeat left the Quraysh humiliated. Determined to avenge their loss, they began assembling a massive army, 3,000 soldiers, heavily armed and ready for battle. With this army, the Quraysh set out from Mecca, resolved to crush the Muslims and extinguish their growing influence. The Muslims knew the Quraysh were coming, but their numbers were much smaller, around 700 fighters. Despite the odds, the Prophet Muhammad PBUH and his companions prepared with care. Instead of staying within Medina's walls, they decided to meet the Quraysh near Mount Uhud, a natural landmark that would serve as a strategic defensive position. Mount Uhud was crucial to their defense plan. At the base of this mountain, the Muslims positioned themselves, with their backs protected by the steep cliffs. The Prophet also placed a key group of 50 archers on a small hill at the rear, with strict orders to hold their ground no matter what happened. These archers would guard the Muslims' vulnerable flank, ensuring that no one could attack them from behind. This was a critical instruction, one that would later be tested in a moment of temptation. As dawn broke, the Quraysh forces lined up against the Muslims, their numbers imposing and their weapons gleaming in the early light. The battle was about to begin, and the Muslims braced themselves, ready to defend their faith and their community. With the first clash of swords, the Battle of Uhud was underway. The Muslims fought with extraordinary bravery. Their faith fueled their determination, and soon they began gaining the upper hand, pushing the Quraysh back. The tide seemed to be in their favor, and the Quraysh, caught off guard, started to retreat. It was a promising sign for the Muslims, and it seemed as if victory was within their grasp. From their position on the hill, the archers witnessed what appeared to be a clear victory. Tempted by the spoils of war left on the battlefield, many of them made a critical decision. Despite the Prophet's command to remain at their post, they abandoned their position, eager to join their fellow fighters in collecting the treasures left behind by the fleeing Quraysh. Only a few archers stayed, urging their companions to remember the Prophet's orders. But in the excitement of what seemed like a sure victory, their voices went unheard. Among the Quraysh was a skilled military leader, Khalid ibn al-Walid, who would later embrace Islam and become one of its greatest generals. Noticing the empty hill, he saw his chance. With the Muslims' rear now exposed, he led a sudden cavalry charge up the hill, launching a devastating attack from behind. The Muslims were taken by surprise, and confusion quickly spread through their ranks. In the midst of the chaos, a rumor began circulating that the Prophet Muhammad PBUH had been killed. This rumor struck a blow to the Muslims' morale, causing some to lose heart and retreat, while others fought with even greater courage, determined to protect the Prophet at all costs. Though injured and blooded, the Prophet Muhammad PBUH remained resolute. Stones had struck him, his helmet was dented, and blood covered his face, but he called on his followers to regroup and stand firm. Close companions rallied to his side, forming a human shield around him and protecting him from the enemy's onslaught. Realizing they could no longer hold their ground on the open battlefield, the Muslims began to retreat up the slopes of Mount Uhud, where the terrain would help them defend themselves more effectively. Though they had lost the advantage, they held their positions on the mountainside, preventing the Quraysh from advancing further into Medina. Having satisfied their desire for revenge and believing they had taught the Muslims a harsh lesson, the Quraysh decided not to pursue the Muslims further. Instead, they gathered their fallen and began their journey back to Mecca, considering the battle a victory. For the Muslims, the Battle of Uhud was a painful experience, but it was also a moment of deep reflection. They had been close to victory, only to face defeat due to a critical lapse in discipline and unity. The Prophet reminded them that their true strength lay in their faith, obedience, and unity. The battle was a test, one that left lasting lessons on the importance of following leadership and staying united in times of difficulty. So now you know the story of the Battle of Uhud, a story of resilience, sacrifice, and lessons that strengthened the early Muslim community. Though it ended in loss, the lessons learned at Uhud would prepare the Muslims for future challenges. Click on the video on your screen to learn about the famous Battle of Badr, where the Muslims first displayed their faith and courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories from Islamic history. Until next time, peace and blessings be upon you all.